You don't get it, Pencil. You don't understand. You're just jealous because you don't have those absolutely thick, bubblicious yams like Mirio does, and that's why you're mad.
Hypothetically, even if I weren't thicker than Big Mom after 3 wedding cakes on her 46th child, I still would be disappointed. Thank you to our final patrons, Strawbones and Aaron. Now, before we get into this breakdown / discussion on why Mirio's thick, meaty yams just weren't enough to save chapter 366 of My Hero Academia, please leave your own thoughts on Mirio's yams in the comment section down below. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, make sure you hit that little notification bell so you miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below. It's going for as low as $1 a month. Get things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. Now, let's hop into the discussion. What's up, guys? I got the Pencil here, and as established, I don't think Mirio's gluteus maximus worked out too well in terms of tension keeping, referencing, and callback in chapter 366. And as I expected, you know, I kind of have a sixth sense for these things now after being negative towards My Hero Academia before. A lot of people didn't like that. And a lot of people, at least the main defense I've seen in the comments and the main defense I've seen online, is that it was a callback that fit into Mirio's character and referenced Night Eye, and thus it was good. However, plot twist, being a callback, being a reference to another character, and being within character does not always make something good. And let's talk about why. Let's go over the initial thing that I talked about in the live reaction itself. The main reason I didn't like it, it's a tension killer. I'm sorry. You can't have your villain reach their final form, have this same character that's about to show their thick, glorious yams freaking out and having an internal crisis about how powerless they are, and have everyone literally dead and or dying around you. Remember, Bakugo is dead on the floor, Edshot's giving up his life, Best Jeanist is running towards death, and Miriko's up in a tree, missing 3 of her 4 limbs. And this is what we do right before an actual, natural, non-story breaking tension break was going to happen. Simply put, Midoriya was going to show up at the end of the chapter regardless. There was no reason to sacrifice all this buildup, all this tension for some yams. I'm sorry. I don't care how thick, meaty, and glorious they are. They may even put Nightwings to shame. But regardless, the tension sacrifice was not worth it. I've seen people try to justify it as a cool mood switch up, but I don't know. Hypothetically, if this were Lion King, right? And we see that Scar has Simba dangling over the edge of Pride Rock, about to fall into the fires lit by the heavens, and Pumbaa started throwing it back in the background. Do you think that'd be a good tension break? Do you think that'd be a good mood switch? I don't think so. I think it would just break the tension and suck you out the narrative. If, hypothetically, in the middle of the final battle between Naruto and Sasuke, you know, the ultimate climax between the entire series, Kakashi came in with Guy, and Guy started throwing it back. Like, does that make it a good tension break? And a big thing that people brought up was the reverse harem from Naruto and how it worked on Kaguya. And I don't like that either. I think it's stupid. And admittedly, I have many more issues with the Kaguya fight than just that. I have issues with Kaguya herself. But I also think that's dumb and broke the tension. You know, we're fighting the literal progenitor of all chakra. She got a nosebleed from hot men. What? Like, it felt unnecessary, and it felt like it broke something that wasn't needed to be broken. Because we were doing well. We were establishing a threat, we were building up on the threat, and the solution to the threat was right on the horizon in the case of My Hero Academia. Quite literally on the horizon, and just needed 2 seconds. So, no. Throwing Mirio's yams on screen to immediately devalue all the death, destruction, and pain going around because Mirio's thicker than a bowl of ice cream that's been left in the freezer for too long doesn't justify it. I'm sorry. For the tension you were building, no matter what, you don't break that. Especially if you're going to break it in a way anyway, not 2 pages later. I'm sorry. It just doesn't work out. Not even 2 pages later, a page later. Number 2. let's talk about my biggest issue. Execution. Execution is everything. The reason that we call things good and things bad, when they have literally the exact same plot and premise, antagonist, protagonist, side characters, story, is because of execution. So the callback and its execution are important. How the callback is executed is important. So, this callback of Mirio throwing his yams about, what does it call back to? Specifically, in the specific usage of his yams. Let's talk about specifically just the yams at first. It calls back to, if I'm not mistaken, one time Mirio threw his yams back when he was right before the cultural festival in a bush. This is the one and only time Mirio did that. It's a callback to that. And if I'm not mistaken, in fact, I'm going to go double check real quick. It didn't make anybody laugh. It was a failed joke, and it was weird because he threw his cheeks back right next to Eri. It was the one and only time he did it. And it was weird. I'm sorry, I don't know. Even back then, I was like, what am I watching? Were they glorious? Yes. If it's fat in jeans, you know it's fat in everything else. But I just don't get how this callback works here for Mirio's character. Is this really what Mirio's character was about? Is this what Night Eye's character was about? Calling back to the yams in an unfunny joke? I don't think so. I don't ever remember Night Eye laughing at the yams, because I don't think the yams are used any other time. If I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. But the thing is, if I can't remember it, then it's a callback that fails to call back to anything that's good. No, I'm kidding. If I don't remember it, then I'm misremembering it, and I can't remember or quickly Google any other time where he threw out the yams. So the callback doesn't work on that level, because it's calling back to a part of Mirio's character that is pretty much a one-off that failed before. So him expecting it to work here seems kind of weird. I don't know why he would do that. So it's a callback failure on that level, because it calls back to a very insignificant part of Mirio's character. But it was funny, though, to him, and that's what mattered. But does it look funny to him? Like, look at Mirio's face. Look at Mirio's face when he's throwing his yams back. You may be too focused on the yams, and I get it. They take up a good fourth of the page. They're that glorious. But look at his face. He's in terror. He's freaking out and sweating and crying tears as veins are popping out of his head. He's not having fun here. He's not smiling. And I'm not gonna lie, it feels kind of dumb. It feels kind of stupid. But you know what would? You know what may save this, you know? It was a callback to Night Eye, right? Because, make people laugh, right? But you know what? Ironically enough, even in the same callback that's being used within this very chapter, guess what? Night Eye doesn't tell Mirio to keep laughing. The main thing he tells him is to keep smiling. That is the one thing that he told Mirio. And sure, we get the secondary part. A society without cheer and humor will not have a bright future. And I suppose that's supposed to justify the yams. But the main thing that Mirio remembers, the main thing that drags him down, that brings him out of his psychosis here that he's in, which was great for his character. It was perfect. It was working so well. The rest of the chapter was doing great to build the fear and tension behind the fact that Mirio realized that he was powerless against this monster, this demon, that there was nothing he could do about it. That was great. It was beautiful. It was wonderful. But the main thing that snaps him out of it is to keep smiling. That is the callback to Night Eye. That is what makes Night Eye in relative to Mirio. That's the thing that brought him out. But he doesn't even smile. He freaks out in fear. So it doesn't work on that level either. And with that being the case, it feels like this callback doesn't justify its existence. And the thing is, right? Say regardless, say we just can't cut this. Say there's no way on this good green earth we could cut out this tension-breaking callback that is the summation of Mirio's character here, This is his callback to Night Eye. This is probably the final thing he'll do in the narrative before disappearing again. This is the end of Mirio's character for as much as we know it. Because Midori is here. The final fight's about to happen. This is the end of Mirio's character. We'll talk about that in a little bit more. In a little bit, but this is the end. Were there any other ways we could do it? Was it only through the peach? Was this the only thing that could have worked? No, there's no excuse for it to be this. You want to know a good callback that would have fit perfectly with not just in Mirio's character, but as a callback to Night Eye and also a callback to Mirio's entire arc with Eri? If he actually just smiled and went to hug Shigaraki. Let's explain why this works on multiple levels better than what we got. 1, it calls back to a more potent and arguably the most important part of Mirio's character, his tragedy. Do you remember what Eri saw when Mirio lunged towards her to protect her from the quirk erasing bullet? She saw Mirio's smile. That is the last thing she saw before being protected and given a warm embrace to keep her safe. A smile. It's just as Night Eye always wanted. He wanted Mirio, in the face of danger, in the face of adversity, in the face of fear and even death itself, to keep smiling. And in that case, that's what Mirio did. No matter what, the fact that he was going to lose it all, the fact that all of his years of work and dedication, his dream was going to die right then and there, he smiled. Did it break tension? No. Did it snap anything of the narrative? No. In fact, it only added to Mirio. It made him stronger as a character, along with feeding directly into what Night Eye wanted for him. So, why not just do that? Why not just have Mirio smile at Shigaraki? And here's the thing, right? We'll get into the hug thing in a little bit, because that's another layer that could have made it even better. But just smiling at Shigaraki here, it would have broken the tension just a little bit, just like we apparently want here. For some reason, if we are necessarily trying to keep the tension break, him smiling here would work fundamentally on all the same levels that the Yams do, except better. Because the smile would call back to the same smile that Mirio had in the face of danger when he lost his quirk, essentially the equivalent of his life previously. It will call back to that moment, which is arguably a much more fundamentally important moment to Mirio's character than his yams popping through a bush. 2, it would fit within Night Eye's callback with the idea of keep smiling, keep putting on that brave face, keep being good, be that symbol of cheer for all the people in the world, even in the face of danger and death and destruction, which is what we do here. It would throw Shigaraki off because obviously bro's in a monstrous form right now, so it would be wonderful for him to be thrown off by this man who in dire straits and dire circumstances is smiling at him, and would give us that 2 seconds that Midoriya needed to come through and properly break the tension. And 3, it wouldn't be his yams. I think a smile would have worked great. And it keeps everything that the yams do. It's wonderful. But you know why I specifically wouldn't even want to be just a smile? I would want it to be a hug. Or a hug in the phasing sense. With a combination of a smile. Because then we get to tie in Shigaraki's character into Mirio's character. Shigaraki lost his sister, his family, and his friends when he reached out to hug them. One of the biggest things of Shigaraki's character is how no one reached out to him. No one loved him. No one gave him that proper chance to be who he wanted to be. And the people who did died and or meat puppet him. And if we're going to be so focused on saving Shigaraki through Tenko, what did Tenko want more than anything in the world? To reach out and be hugged. To reach out and be loved. So that would also pause Shigaraki. Seeing Mirio smiling at him, reaching out for him in an embrace, would pause him, confuse him for that 2 seconds that they needed. It's once again only 2 seconds. And at the same time, we could feed into the tragedy of both Shigaraki and Mirio by having Mirio phase through him. Just in the same way that Shigaraki, through his disintegration quirk, phased through his family, phased through the people that he loved, locked them away in this eternal state of despair and destruction through his reaching out, Mirio would phase right through him too. Because he ended up destroying everything. And guess what? It still works as a callback to the most important part of Mirio's character. Still works as a callback to Night Eye. Still gives the 2 seconds that we need. Still keeps the tension and even increases the tragedy. Better than the yams. So why not that? If I can just think of that off the top of my domer, right? Like, I trust me, I did not put much thought into this. The chapter dropped yesterday, and I was recording a whole bunch of stuff yesterday, so this was not priority number 1 on my mind. I just sat down and thought of this. How couldn't Horikoshi? Why did the callback have to be his yams? Why? And here's the thing, right? If this callback doesn't work, tell me why it doesn't. Tell me how it doesn't. Because let me go back. Let me double check something real quick. Yep. Not his last words to Midoriya and Mirio and All Might, where that is one part of the future that mustn't be changed. So keep smiling. Everyone breaks down. And then we get the second line, a world without smiles and humor has no bright future. And then Night Eye passes away. But once again, the main part of that message, the main part that takes up a whole chunk of panel, a whole fourth of the page, is keep smiling. So the fact that Mirio goes against that by not smiling, by throwing it back, if you will, quite literally throwing it back, with tears in his eyes and sweat dripping down his face as he screams with terror, defiles everything Night Eye stood for. It's not a good callback to Night Eye, because that's not what Night Eye would have wanted. Using an unfunny joke, something that he actually, now I think about it, it's even worse, because Mirio knows that joke didn't work, because it failed the first time, and on top of that, we know Night Eye punishes unfunny jokes. Remember what he did to Bubble Girl when he locked her up in that weird tickle machine? Night Eye doesn't even like bad jokes. And the main thing that Night Eye's doing in the flashback that we see here, that I'm assuming Horikoshi just threw in to try and make us like Night Eye, even though no one cares about Night Eye, he's smiling. And laughing. I'll give him that. But Mirio is doing neither. Shigaraki doesn't even laugh or smile. And to be fair, we can't see his mouth. But he doesn't even laugh. So why? Why is this perfect? Why is this excusable? When there is an easier executional route that would have fit everything better. Everything. It would have kept our attention. It would have stayed as a callback to a more important part of Mirio's character that stays into a callback, that ties into Night Eye, that does everything better. Why can we excuse the yams? The yams just don't work on any level. And speaking of levels, let's talk about the final one. Mirio's character. Night Eye, in his death, promised Mirio that he would be a fine hero. That is the last thing he said with the last of his life. The last uses of his quirk was to check, to make sure that Mirio would be a fine hero. And this, as I mentioned earlier, is the end for Mirio. We are at the end of My Hero Academia. There's nothing left. There's no more time for quirk awakenings. There's no more time for any superpowers to suddenly work in new different ways. This is the fine hero that we see Mirio become. This is what he was reduced to. Mirio, a character who embodies one of the best tragedies that My Hero Academia has ever written, is part of one of the best dual character arcs that we see in the entire narrative, is reduced to throwing his cheeks back in absolute fear as a big hulking man comes to claim him like he dropped the soap. That's all. No smiling. No bravery. Just desperation. And do you all really like that? Do you all really like seeing Mirio reduced to this? Is the offer I propose that bad? The idea that Mirio could simply lunge for Shigaraki with a smile on his face and his arms outstretched as if to give him a hug, and then just pass right on through him and allow Midoriya to blitz right on through. Me personally, I think it still gives respect to Mirio's character. It calls back to his tragedy, calls back to another poor, red-eyed, white-haired child that needed saving from somebody, yet couldn't for various reasons. Calls back to Night Eye and all his character was, and at the same time allows us to send Mirio out in a good way, not a flagrant one? Tell me. Please, tell me down below. I'm very intrigued to see the reactions to this one. So, thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you hit that little notification bell so you miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below. You can support for as low as $1 a month. You can link exclusive videos, early content, and more. Thank you guys so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Guy with the Pencil, writing off.